This is Ivan, and Ivan really wants to get better at the game of chess. He swallowed 2 pawns one time and read an entire chess book for this, but still no progress. He stayed stuck between 800 to 1000 for a long time, but then he sat down and decided to make a plan for how he turned this thing around. He started by checking his own chess games, and to his surprise, there were a few key topics that were missing from his play. He knew exactly what to do next. Now here's the first action step to say that you're listening to this video. Go to chess.com or wherever you play chess and literally switch the timer from 10 minutes to 15 minutes and above. That, for training games, should be the main time that you play on. It's actually very useful and very important to do this. It'll help you to play better in the opening. It'll help you mostly with avoiding blunders, which is the main thing that this is going to help you with. Now, why is this also important? It's going to help us train this. This is a thinking process, literally questions we are going to ask before every move, and that is going to make us better players by nature. Now, as beginners, we have a few main topics that we need to talk about. After you have changed the time in your overplay from 10 minutes to 15 minutes, it takes a minute. Go to chess.com. You can literally do this right now. After you have done this, what we need to do is we need to talk about the topics we have to improve at chess. Opening principles, tactics, avoiding blunders. These are the most important ones. Now, let's talk about how to prevent blunders. Remember the thinking process that we have just talked about? This one? This is something that we need to ask before every move. And by asking this more often, it's going to be more common, more natural, and we will use it more often in our games. And the plus, this first question and this last question help us just to prevent 90% of all blunders that happen. First of all, you ask this, then this helps you to stop blunders. In the board right now, white moved the knight back, right? They moved it from a4 to c3. And I need to ask you now, as black, what move would you do using this thinking process? And we're going to walk through this in this game. And then we'll move on to the next topics, which are tactics, calculations, all of these. What is my opponent's last move? If I'm black and I'm in this position and I think, okay, the knight has moved here, so it's obvious to defend. It's obviously a move that is made to defend the king. What are the weaknesses that white has? I don't really see much. But what I do see is that, first of all, I can develop my own pieces. For example, I have a weakness in here, needs to be fixed, and there is a pin in here. There is a pin against this knight. This knight cannot move. What is my least active piece? It's obviously this bishop. I would like to move it out. However, because of the last question, what will be the opponent's most powerful reply, we can see that his most powerful move would be this move, knight to b3. So this is the first and most clear concern that we have. This is the immediate move that we think about. This is his most powerful reply, after all. A literal tactic. Now, since this is our obvious concern right now, we need to think, how do we stop this? How do we prevent this? And we actually get to the conclusion that, well, the first thing that we think about is moving the queen away, which is absolutely sensible. But then the second thing that you may think about is, well, what if instead I try to make an active move, which is the point of this fourth question. Activity is literally, that's not the point of this video, but it's having a piece progress towards the side of the opponent and make it place pressure against the opponent. So for example, a move like this places pressure against this pinned knight, now it cannot move. And now white has a problem, because I can just, if he moves the knight here, let's say, I could just take here, and then he'll have double pawns, and then I can move the queen. And now white has a problem, not us, black. Anyways, this whole sequence does not happen. In a beginner game, this thinking process does not exist. And thus, black had made the next move, which is castling in this case, right? Which is obviously a blunder, because now we can see why. It's just a complete collapse. After I move back with the queen, you can just take it. That's absolutely winning for white. But again, why does this happen? A beginner player has this problem where they make a move and they make a blunder, and only then they realize that they have made the blunder. You need to reverse this. Think about, for example, this is literally what you can think about. This thinking process that you're supposed to write this down, and then making the move, you will be a lot less likely to make a blunder like this. That's about avoiding blunders, the first topic. Now, the second and most important topics after avoiding blunders is literally tactics. And we've talked about the one tactic already, that's the fork. Tactics are like patterns that exist in chess. They're patterns to either win material or something in a specific situation, and it happens across multiple games. So we're gonna look into one tactic, one of these patterns basically that happen right now. And the best way and the only real way to practice this is just to do just a ton of them, literally. So what I like to do is I like to go into chess.com or for Lichess, and there's something which is called a puzzle streak, and that literally teaches you how to do tactics in a very simple way. And they're either used to win material or capture or get a checkmate. The main thing about tactics is just to do as much of them as possible. I'll give you an example for a tactic which is called the fork. So rook to a7. This is the fork tactic. I want you to try to say this. This is very simple. If you're an intermediate player, you already know this, obviously. But beginners are still not experienced with this. So the tactic is this, going like this. You're sacrificing the queen in here, right? Because he will take your queen like this, and you're putting the bishop here. A fork is where one piece is aiming at two important pieces, and thus one of them has to move, and you're gonna win this way material. And now you're up a rook against the bishop. The fork tactic. This tactic, by the way, is the most common that you're gonna see. Most of your beginners are gonna fall into this tactic at least once. It's very common. Now that's the fork tactic. Let's move to the next one. You've seen it too beforehand, and you need to train this a lot, because the more you're gonna do this, the easier it will be to see this in actual games. So white have obviously moved here. Now the pin tactic is where one piece, for example this pawn, cannot move or protect the other pawn because something bigger aims against it. So in here, for example, this is the rook takes, and now it's just a mate. That's been the pin tactic for beginners. Now, the discovered attack is where one piece reveals moves, and it reveals an attack against another piece. So try to find the tactic in here. The tactic is the move pawn to f6, like this, right? And well, this reveals an attack against the bishop, and the attack against the knight, basically. That's the discovered attack. Let's say for a moment to take like this, then I'm very simply gonna take the other knight. That's simple. Now this covers for us a lot. Let's now talk about openings. And for openings, I would say learn the basics, and by this I mean learn two, and be as good as you can with them. That's the first topic. It's better to be very good in two than being mediocre in all of them, because what you're basically gonna do is you're gonna play just the two of them, and you're gonna repeat them. This way it just becomes a lot easier against other players. Now, the openings, let's say for example you're using the Italian. On here you can see I remember these moves already. Alright, bishop here, bishop there, pawn here, excuse me. First of all, pawn here, now the knight comes here, then there. If it's the other way around, then we also switch the move order. Castle, and my aim is to bring the knight here, right? And that's kind of like the plan that I have for the middle game. I'm gonna max out my activity against the opponent. But you see, I have two openings that I'm quite good at. And that is the way that you learn opening. And for the ones of you that struggle with applying the principle, remember the next rule. By move 10, I castled, I developed all of my pieces, and I'm about to connect my rook. So connecting the rooks is by moving the queen a little bit so the rooks can see each other, which is important. It's an opening task. Alright, so that's it for today's video. If you have any questions, leave them down below. I'll do my best to answer all of them. And if you really want to take your chess to the next level, consider subscribing. Obviously, is the information that you need to watch more of if you've came up until this point. And I'll see you in the next video.